All right, there we go. There we go. We are live. We are live. Welcome one, welcome
Live.
all. Okay. Well, Brian Shearer, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I am trying to get a issue of GI Joe done that I got just a little bit behind on. Trying to finish it this week, and keep up with my everything else life. Trying to get some sleep. That's not working out so well.
Well,
Yeah. So
sleep.
other than that,
Well,
the year 2020 is out to get everybody. So I can't complain. I mean, what do I got to complain about?
let me do some intros here because we obviously welcome Brian to the channel, but let me say hello to other people that will be listening later. The audio from this broadcast will be at anchor.fm/Ikari Press. You can go there. It will direct you to all the other places. We're on 15 different places. So the main places that you can type in Ikari Press on most streaming platforms and we will come up. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify. We are on Amazon Music and, of course, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play. I mean, there's a bunch of it. So mostly all you need to do is just type in Ikari Press and we should come right up. We are also streaming live to the glorious folks over at Planet EJOBN over on Facebook, about 263,000 strong there. So hello, Planet EJOBN, and salute to my buddy Jamal Baraka there. And if you are on one of the other platforms that I stream on, like Periscope or Twitch, you can directly hop in the chat at youtube.com/Ikari Press. All right, so you see him here, Brian Shearer. He is a comic book artist of over a decade, and as he just mentioned, works on GI Joe, Transformers, Doctor Who, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's got a slew of credits, and obviously some independent creator-owned stuff as well. Particularly, what was it? There's one called William
the Last. Yeah.
William the Last. Okay.
And then last year was Gunship Thunderpunch, and funding. I'm about to wrap that up and launch Gunship Thunderpunch 2 probably after Christmas. So it's my schedule. So I'm planning on.
Jay Stan. I don't know. Is that something? Jay Stanley? Well, hello. That's someone from Planet EJOBN on Facebook, or something. But I don't know. I'm missing something. But Jay Stan. But hello. Thank you for watching.
That looks like a Facebook a glitch there.
Yeah, it
probably gave you a thumbs up, and it's showing it as a comment or something. That's what it is.
Possibly, but we appreciate anyone that is watching. But Brian, get into the beginning of your career. How did you break into comics?
Well, I was trying to break into comics. I think the first time I showed my portfolio, back when you went to conventions and actually showed a physical portfolio to people, which seems quaint now because now it seems like it's all social media and everything. But I think 2000, and my stuff was horrible. And the editor was a DC editor, and he was very kind. But I look at that stuff now, I was like, oh, wretched. But I around 2007, I got some work doing. My first paid gig was when sketch cards came back in 2007. Upper Deck was doing the Marvel license, and then Rittenhouse, and they were just getting every artist, everybody was suddenly calling themselves I'm a Marvel artist. Not really. I mean, you were doing you were 3 companies removed, but okay, I'll give it to you. So I was doing
that on Instagram a lot. I see people they got some sketch cards and they go, "Oh, I work for Marvel."
Yeah. But you know what? There was a weird a time around 2007 when I guess sketch cards and card sets had been gone for a while, and when they came back, it was if you worked on a Marvel property like Iron Man, I did a bunch of Iron Man stuff back then. And you would get the artist proofs where you do commissions, and those little card commissions were selling for $200 and $300. It was like the Renaissance for about a year and a half. It was absurd. And so I did that. I did thousands of those cards. And then locally, there's some guys that worked for Marvel and DC, a lot of inkers, a few pencilers, Randy Green, Rick Ketchum, John Wyckoff, all those guys. Well, they had a physical studio space downtown. And I used to run into them at Heroes Con, which is in Charlotte. It's pretty close. And Rick especially, but you need to come over to the studio, hang out and stuff and draw. And, so eventually I went over there and I started renting studio space and joined their studio. And I'd just been getting card work, no real comic book work, but I spent 5 years there just around those guys, watching them work. There's Spider-Man pages floating around the studio and, all that. And just being able to kind of be immersed in that. And I learned to ink my inking skills because it was mostly inkers. My inking skills just like really took off. Just being able to watch them and learn from them. And they would get behind on things and I'd help them out. And then I started getting some work at IDW just here and there, helping them out. And then I think I really kind of got my foot in the door with IDW because Kelly Yates, one of my studio mates, was working on Doctor Who. It was a 4-issue miniseries, and I was inking it, but he couldn't finish it. So I had to pencil and ink the last 2 issues. So I kind of got my foot in the door there. And then somehow I got some work here and there with G.I. Joe, which led to Transformers, because it's kind of the same editors there. And then the penciler for G.I. Joe at the time, Shannon Gallant, said he really liked my inks over his stuff. So he kept asking for me. And then the next, 6 years of my life is inking G.I. Joe and then penciling a few here and there. And usually now they don't really ask me to ink so much. Like I'm penciling and inking an issue right now. So I've kind of more doing when I get work, it's usually that or a cover for them. And then the last couple of years with crowdfunding, like doing Gunship Thunderpunch and trying to do my own properties and whatnot. So that's kind of my story. It's one of those things people say, hey, how do you get into comics? And it's like everybody has a different story. And like I wouldn't even know how to tell somebody how to do it now, except do good work and try to build up an audience. And because I don't even know what the rules are anymore. It's so back in the day, they used to say if you ask 10 different artists how they got in, you get 10 different answers and you couldn't replicate them, right? So like in my case, it's like I got in because I knew a couple guys that had physical studio space. Well, you can't replicate that. I don't know what to tell you. Just work hard, I guess.
Well, I've seen you've done some interesting stuff. You had there was like some kind of Ghostbusters something. It was like a little crossover.
Yeah, they did. They asked me to do a cover for a Ghostbusters thing where essentially they were, I guess, tying in how all these different Ghostbusters universes, like from the 2016 to the original to the cartoon, all that stuff. And essentially all those things, they treated them like alternate universes. And so they wanted me to fit them all into like one cover. So I was like, well, they should all be in the elevator from the first Ghostbusters movie, but instead of just the original Ghostbusters, just like a mix mash. Like I got to draw the real Ghostbusters cartoon from the 80s. And then, you got the newer movie, and then you've got these other comic characters. So it was a weird little cover to do for Ghostbusters, trying to cram all those together.
How is IDW to work for? And I'm asking because when I was coming up, like say in the 80s, and I'd go and slip to the comic book shop. Actually, IDW didn't even exist. It was, you'd see a couple of the independent stuff, like I'd see like Gru the Wanderer and what's the Dave Sims, Cerebus, and I'd see that kind of stuff. What Mirage Studios, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but mainly it was Marvel and DC and Dark Horse.
Yeah,
and IDW just kind of exploded.
Yeah, and then you had Image was like the outlier, like the first real explosion in the 90s. And then I think too, because back in the day, 80s, 90s, like all these Hasbro properties like Transformers, G.I. Joe, Marvel had those. Yeah, those were all Marvel books. And somewhere in the 90s,
Thundercat,
He-Man, all that stuff, any of the licensed stuff, apparently they just let it lapse in the 90s because there's that weird time before the nostalgia hits, before our generation got old enough, and we were kind of like, oh, we're in college now. We don't want, in general, they're like, oh, we're got other things to do before we start reminiscing, like, oh, I really miss Transformers. Well, when all that hit, originally it was Dreamwave got, I think, G.I. Joe and Transformers, and they did for a couple years, and then IDW popped on the scene and got all the Hasbro licenses. So their thing was
didn't Image have them too for a while? I thought Image had G.I. Joe for a while. I thought because there were, if not, I thought Rob had done. I thought I saw some
that.
Image artists
that had done. It's
that.
absolutely
I'm
possible.
talking. I'm going back like. It might have been over at IDW, but that was it was after the period like when Rob had went back to Marvel with Jim Lee, and then he just started working for everybody. I know
it might have been, there was a weird period where those licenses were bouncing around. Because I know there was an Avengers Transformers crossover. Yeah. I mean, that was around that time where the license really wasn't settled in at IDW. So, but by the time IDW came along, they came on the scene as their sweet spot was, you've got a license, we'll make a comic of it, and that was their whole business model, as far as I know. And they did some creator-owned stuff too. But so they got all the early. Let's see, by 2007, I know they had Doctor Who for a long time before Titan got the rights. So they were Doctor Who, and they're still all the Hasbro stuff. So they've been good to work with for me. Like it's not like I've never not been paid, so I get the script, I do the thing, I fill the stuff out. And, with working, I think with any, company, especially a smaller company that's successful like IDW, sometimes it's hard to get in touch with editors if you're not actively working on the book the editor is trying to get out the door right then. So even no matter how long you've been there, it's like you can send emails, they won't get returned. And it's not like, and I talked to an editor about this one time, and he said, yeah, it's not that we don't see them, it's just that we get 150 emails a day and we're just trying to put out fires, and it's whatever is getting ready to go out the door. So
okay, so Arthur Brown, the Uncanny Kodiak, says yes. In 2001, Image had G.I. Joe. I thought so. I remember because I remember seeing it in Wizard. They were
that was that
showing
weird
in Wizard magazine back in the day. So okay,
2001 would have been that weird that period where the rights were just bouncing around.
Yeah. Okay, because I was like, I remember because even when I had Jeff Smith here last year and talked about that little period where he was just self-publishing, and then he hopped over to Image and then went back to self-publishing after a little. But he it was around that whole comics bust thing, when the comic boom and then the comic bust happened, the comic crash, and he had gotten a little concerned that he might lose everything, so he thought it'd be a little safer to publish through Image during that time, and then he felt, once he felt the waters were a little safer, he went back out on his own. So
there was that weird, again, around then there was a period where comics, everybody's like the one of the many demises of comics periods where it's going to fall apart and everything, and then it kind of bounced back a bit. And then I remember the last one, I guess 2008, when they had the market crash with the real estate. And I remember calling an editor and then it being kind of like, we don't have any work, because it was starting to hit there. And then it kind of bounced back, from that. So, and then, who knows what's going to happen now? I mean, now it's kind of unprecedented, but we'll see.
Oh no! So we have our dear friend Amanda Lamella in the chat trolling, giving me all kinds of hell because we started the stream a little early. But since Mr. Shearer came, a lot of times when you get these artists and stuff, people have busy days. If I have an opportunity to go ahead and start the stream and get them on, I like to do that, as opposed to, I mean, hell, it was only 20 minutes. And I am
one of my weaknesses is I'm chronically early to everything. And
I'm on CP time. I'm late as hell to everything, man. But I try to be very much a stickler to start streams at least on time.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, I've got.
It's my fault, Amanda. I'm sorry.
But hey, big fan. I've seen so much of your work, and we've done a few streams together on different channels and stuff, and been friendly. So I was like, hey, let me get Brian on my channel and talk to him and stuff.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that is a nice thing. I mean, you kind of run into people here and there on streams and stuff, and you kind of, some of them you kind of jive with, and like that's how I met Elliot, and
love Elliot. I just got off the phone with him, by the way.
Did you?
We were talking. I was like, yeah, I'm about to go live with Brian. It was awesome.
I finally got a hold of him yesterday. I was calling him for a couple of days, and he was busy. And then you know how he is on the phone. It's like he doesn't. I actually kind of admire this about him, that he's not glued to his phone. that he's like the last human on the planet that you send a text and he might get back to you tomorrow. Like he's mailing his text to you and it has to go through the post office or something. But yeah.
Yeah, I had to. I called Elliot because I kind of wanted him to contribute something to this project that I'm doing with Dame Drops. So we're, so I had to speak with Elliot. I think he could add a little something to it. And we're really excited with, Elliot, I was like, hey, what would you do this or do that? And then he kind of came up with a really cool idea. So that kind of came out of the blue. And I was like, oh man, I think Dame would like that. I mean, we're about to really crank that thing up because Kanan's like, we want to get a couple pages more done. Matter of fact, when we get off the air, I'll show you what we've done. Yeah, I think you'll like it. And as we go forward, I think people will enjoy what we've come up with, and there's going to be like a little free preview, and then we're going to do like a little crowd fund for it and all that. So
cool.
It'll be real cool. So
yeah, you're gonna do it on Indiegogo?
It's looking like I'm kind of. I had talked to Dame about Indiegogo because I like Indiegogo, but he's not opposed to Kickstarter either. Yeah. Yeah. So we just
they're two different audiences. I mean, they're two different. It's like Walmart and Target or something. It's because I just put up Thunderpunch on as a second chance offer for book one on Kickstarter, and I did it because I already had I did an art book years ago on there, so I know I had a few hundred at least people on there. So it's been kind of slow traction on there for me. So it's just weird how that works. Like Thunderpunch,
I haven't had much luck on. I've tried a couple times on Kickstarter, and it's like, but it's at the same point in time. If I hadn't launched Brand on Kickstarter, so like the first time I launched Brand, it was on Indiegogo, and we failed. Raised $95, and then a buddy was like, "Hey, man, book still looks okay. Why don't you try Kickstarter?" And I put it on Kickstarter, and we were still not getting the response. We only it was better than Indiegogo though. Like the first week we raised about $300, where I said for 60 days on Indiegogo.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 60 days on Indiegogo. I only raised $95, but on Kickstarter, the first 7 days we had gotten to like 300. Yeah. And so I was thinking, oh, maybe we might make it this time. And then I got really excited, and then it died. Yeah. Because once you're not in the new listings, oh my God, if you don't have something to push it, once you're not in that new listings, you're dead. And you don't have, and I was like, I didn't have a social media presence. I had like about 200 something people following me on Twitter, and my YouTube channel had like about 100 people subscribed to it. Yeah. And so I just you don't have the social media presence. And so it's like a fart in church. It just kind of wafts out there and it doesn't do anything. But during that Kickstarter campaign, a gentleman by the name of Dave T. You might he used to be Geek Out Loud. He's in a bunch of chats, but he happened to see Brand on Kickstarter, and he tweeted it out, and he tagged like Ethan Van Sciver, he tagged Mike, he tagged that Umbrella guy, he tagged a bunch of people in it. I think he tagged Edwin Boy. Yeah, he tagged a bunch of people in it. Mike was on stream on Ethan Van Sciver's channel when he saw the tweet where he linked Brand on Kickstarter, and Ethan was actually about to get off the air, and Mike interrupted Ethan and asked could he show something on the air. He looked at the campaign. Mike didn't know me from Adam. Yeah. And the first time Brand was showed on the air was it was on Kickstarter on that campaign. And when Mike showed Brand on Ethan's channel, I got like another $400 in sales just like that. It was like boom. And then Mike reached out to me, and then I went on his channel and we made a little bit. We got up to like 1,800, and then people were like, was Ethan going to have you on? And they weren't sure. And then I made a video where I was cooking gumbo and I happened to be watching Ethan's channel, and this is what happened. So, Ethan saw the gumbo video, and then he DM'd me and invited me on his channel, and we ended up raising $78,000.
Yeah.
So it was.
And isn't it weird? It's because the whole thing I've learned with crowdfunding, especially, is like you can have the exact same wordage, same images over here, not successful. Move it over here, and it is. And then you have stuff where you push it, and you can see on Kickstarter and stuff that who's coming, and it's like it is very hard just to get people to just click on the link. It's not like they're rejecting rejecting your property. They're just not going to it because people are so saturated with stuff. That's the biggest challenge, I think, is just how do you get people to go click, let me look at this.
Did you see? I'm sure you have the Keanu Reeves comic that they have.
It was on. I saw it when the news came up. How much it went? Like in a day. What, like 250,000 in like a day or something ridiculous, or what? Like,
yeah. Well, I thought it was 350.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, 300. Well, the reason I know that because they were comparing it. It made like about another 1,000 or so more than Ethan's 24-hour record for Cyber Fraud. Because he had raised like 350 something, I thought, or maybe 200. So he was like, yeah, and I think he had done like 354 or something. And he did like 355. So it was crazy, but he did like incredible numbers. Keanu, and now I'm starting like on my Facebook, I'm seeing it because the campaign's winding down. They're getting towards the end, because you can only run it for they don't have an in demand. I'm surprised Kickstarter doesn't have an in demand.
Yeah, that's one nice thing about Indiegogo is you can, while your books at we're doing something extra on the book, you can still get some people in. And
that's why I'm like Indiegogo. That's I actually talked to. There's a guy at Indiegogo that contacted me when you reach a certain sales level. They because I didn't know this, and Doug kind of hit me to it. Doug Tenaple, he kind of hit me to it. He was like, "Oh yeah, once you hit certain sales goals, and you have so many transactions, they will contact you."
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "Hey, how can we?"
Now you've got a guy. Also, you've got a guy at Indiegogo. Yeah.
So there's a gentleman there that contacted me, Antonio. We're very happy for the success you've had with the comic, and let us know when you're launching any other projects. We want to work with you and all this. And I was like, okay. So I actually reached out to him yesterday and let him know that we're going to be doing the Dame Drops comic. Because I mean, this is a big thing right now. Dame's got a lot of press on him right now because he's got the Popeye's chicken commercial going all across the country. He's got the Burger King. He's got like 2 Burger King commercials that I've been seeing whenever I watch. They've been running it pretty heavy during the NBA playoffs and stuff. So it's been like on TNT. I keep seeing his face pop up, and I can hit him up in DMs but we're he read my book. He read Brand, and he saw the art and the colors, and he liked the story. And he was like, I've watched his YouTube channel for a little while now. And basically I noticed he did a couple of his videos when he was in his home, and on his wall, he had like airbrush paintings of like Iron Man and stuff. I was like, that dude's a comic head.
Yeah.
So I noticed that, and that made me follow up with him. I was like, I don't know why, but I sent it, and he started following me on Instagram because I was already following him. I don't expect people with the blue check marks to follow me. And so he started following me, and then he DM'd me, and he was very nice. And I said, well, I had a digital copy of the book, and I gave it to him, and he checked it out. He was just like, he's like, this is good. I like this. I enjoyed this. And I was like, would you be interested in maybe doing a comic? And he said yes, but this didn't happen overnight. It took months and months and months and then he was like, yeah, well, okay. He said, well, if and I was talking to him a couple weeks ago. I said, look, what would you do if you were going to be in a comic book? Like if you had a comic book that was centered around Dame Drops, if you had a comic book. And so he kind of wrote a synopsis down. He was like, he was like, so this is where I would start, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, that gives me something to work with. It was, then I shot it over, I kind of tweaked it up, told him, I was like, I would change this and, this kind of thing. Shot it over to Kanan. Kanan came up with some concepts, for what we call regular Dame. And then we got super official Dame, which that's his catchphrase on his YouTube video. He always says super official. So, which is why the book is called Dame Drop Super Official. So it's going to we've got powered up Dame, and then we've got his villain in the comic, which is called Vegetabully, which is this kind of plant creature. It's a plant creature made out of lettuce and tomato, because Dame Drops does not like lettuce and tomato on his sandwiches. He always takes them off. So that was kind of so we actually let one of the fans pick the name Vegetabully out, and then he's going to Kanan's actually going to draw him in Super Official. He's going to get a cameo in Super Official. So we're actually going to do that. And I mean, he announced it on his YouTube channel. That video's got over 254,000 views on it. It was like, and we did a press release and the whole deal. So.
That's the thing about all this stuff, right? It's like you never know what little thing is going to connect you with the next thing, right? It's like, you did this thing and it fails. Say it fails, but this is what got you this person to notice it. And I think all these little things that lead to stuff happen in they're very small seeds, kind of, right? It's like it happens a very small moment with one person sees this, they like it. And it's not, I think people have this thing where I'm going to do this and it's going to be huge. That's going to lead to my next huge thing. It's like, no, it's really like these little moments, right? It's these little connections you make with people, or they like this, or you were friendly to this person and they like your work. And so, hey, let's talk, let's do that, and you can't plan for those things except that you keep showing up and you keep doing work and you don't get discouraged with your failure, right? You just say, well, what's the next step? How can I do this better? Maybe just move on to the next thing. I think the biggest mistake people make is like they get, this sucks. I'm not, and they get all down on social media. It's like, don't do that. Just keep plugging along, because it's like that's like what you're talking about. That's how stuff happens. That's how you connect with people.
Absolutely, because the first couple of times, I think as I've gotten to know him over the last few months, and he actually starts like mentioning his family and stuff like that, and and just more relaxed, casual conversations as opposed to, okay, this is what I expect. This is
right.
all business and everything. I think now I get it, because when I first approached him, he was like, he kind of puts it out there. I've noticed a lot of companies will contact him and they want him to do certain things, but they don't really have anything of value to offer in return.
Yeah.
And so for him, he's like, I have 1.3 million people on my YouTube channel. I don't need you.
Yeah. So, they need him. That's why they're coming to him.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, okay, so I look at your comic. He said, even you, he's like, I liked your comic, but what is in it for me if we're going to do some kind of partnership and work together, what value can you offer? And I said, okay, let me put some stuff together for you and let you take a look at it. Let me see what we can, it'll just cost me some time. Right. And, kind of, I got with Kanan, and I was like, look, this is kind of what we want to do. And and Kanan put up some sketches, and we didn't think, I honestly didn't think anything of it. I was just it was like, a pitch. I didn't know if it was going to be a home run or not, but it was just a pitch. And I was like, Kanan, don't mess this up. Kanan threw a couple of sketches together, and I shot it off to him. I said, well, we could do, this is kind of what we were thinking of doing. And then, had some layouts for different things and stuff. And he was like, yo, this is incredible. Can I show this? And we hadn't even made the deal yet. Right. So excited to see it. And I was like, so you're yeah, let's do the comic. And I was like, oh, okay. And he said that. I was like, okay, there you go. So we're doing the comic. And then so that's it happened. You know, we put the press release out and everything, and you know, I've had some people reaching out to me, and it's fun, but that wasn't an easy thing to pull off. It wasn't, because, like I say, he just didn't know me, didn't trust me at 1st, and it seems like he said, people would contact him, and you know, they're not bringing anything to the table, so there's no reason for him to, you know, he said he turns down so much stuff every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. I mean, you know, once you get up to that level of even just, you know, there's something about the numbers, right? Everybody sees, oh, that number, then people start saying, they start approaching you, and then you know, wanting something. I would suppose that's kind of a pain.
Yeah, it was interesting because he's like tagged me in on a few things. And you know, he's tagged me and tagged Kanan in, and I noticed, you know, certain people, I didn't realize it was like there was certain people that followed him, and now they're following him, and I was like, that's interesting. You know, so I was like, I wonder if I could make that connection. You know, it's like, you know, I was like, because the big thing is, you know, you take the opportunity and then you try to expand on it and make other things happen. Because, you know, we had kind of had some, you know, I had reached out to Doug to Naples because there had been some, like, maybe a little bit of Hollywood people, some representation, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, but I wasn't, you know, I'm not familiar with that kind of stuff, and you know, they're talking about certain opportunities, and people say stuff, and you don't know, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, okay, no.
Yeah, you learn pretty quick. You're like, you know, especially, you know, you learn going to years ago when I started going to San Diego. And you get the people walk up, handing you the card. I'm a producer. I'm this. I'm shaking.
Yeah.
You learn really quick. People talk, and
in Living Color. Do you remember Funky? What was it? I think they call it Funky Finger Productions on the Living Color.
Now, that sounds familiar.
They were the real janky dudes that were like, they were all, you know, it was Tommy Davidson. It's like, yeah, Funky Finger Productions, and it's like real sketcy, you know. But
that sounds really familiar. I don't think I've followed that in a long time.
But
maybe you run into some weird stuff, you know, just, especially out there, because it's all like, yeah, you know, everybody's trying to work the angle there and get something, or and sometimes you're not even sure what they're going for, but you get the card and you're like, all right, well,
so I had some people that contacted me, and like I said, I wasn't sure about it, and you know, I ended up texting Doug, and Doug was like, hey, call me, man, and let's talk. And you know, he kind of, you know, gave me some really solid advice that I'm glad I listened to, because I was just like, you know, I'm definitely not ready to sign anything or do anything, because I was like, look, it has to be, if you know, we obviously, me and Kane have talked about what we want to do going forward, you know, but you know, if something like that were to happen, it has to be the right type of situation and stuff. And, you know, and that's, you know,
it's good to have people that have been there and kind of know that what to look for, because, you know, a guy like me out on, you know, growing up in North Carolina, I was like, I don't know nothing about any of that stuff. I got to have somebody to tell me what's up.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I'm completely ignorant to some of that stuff. So, but I know my mama always used to say, don't sign nothing, boy. Don't sign nothing. You know, and I was just
that's
like,
not bad advice.
That's, you know, so yeah, I kind of, you know, after talking to Doug, and, you know, he was talking about, hey, make sure, you know, don't, you know, lawyers and this and that and all this. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, you know, I was still working on, you know, making the thing with Dame happen. And, you know, I know exactly what I'm getting with that, you know, so I'm like, you know, and I think, you know, Kanan is, you know, putting those little pages together, and you know, we'll get there's actually gonna, like I said, we're gonna release a preview that people can read of, you know, just like 5 pages, and then, like I said, we'll allow them to crowdfund the thing. So I'm really excited. I mean, the crowdfunding thing is fun, and I mean, you've had some success. How much did you end up raising on Gunship Thunderpunch?
I think it was 44,000, almost 45. You know, as the big crowdfunding things go, I'm on the bottom end, but you know,
it's hard to raise 44,000. That's why I was like, yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, you know, success on there can be kind of a relative thing, because, you know, like 3 years ago, if you told somebody you made $44,000, on a crowdfunded, they would have been like, what? That would have been such an astronomical number. And
Yeah.
now, and I think the thing that's changed is there's a lot of the readers have in the last 2 years have decided this is a viable, that we want to do this, buy books this way. And so I think that's a big difference. But for me, it was like, again, it was the most crowdfunding I've ever done. It was the best one I've ever had, and it was good for me, and it got thing off the ground. So, I mean, I was happy with it. I wasn't like, I'm not bothered that people are way more successful than me, because that, for me, that was, why am I complaining? I don't have anything to complain about.
Well, I remember when we got to 15,000 on book one, I was like, oh my God, we got to 15,000. You couldn't, you couldn't believe it. So it was,
yeah. Well, I mean, when I hit, even with Thunderpunch, I remember going to Heroes Con. I think I was right at like 19,000 at that time. And I had people coming up to me going, "That's unbelievable!" Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty happy." And then, but the nice thing about Indiegogo is I think it ended at 35, and then when it was in demand is when it got up to 44, and that's something Kickstarter you can't do there. So that's why Kickstarter was the second chance offer on the book.
Let me ask you this, because you could. I've seen that people have taken like a old Indiegogo campaign and reopened it. Like, say you could have took the Gunship Thunderpunch campaign on Indiegogo and just added the variant cover as a new tier and just sent that out to your backers. You could, matter of fact, you can still do that, by the way.
Yeah, maybe I will. Again, like I said, because the Kickstarter thing has actually been a very slow, launching thing, because my audience is over on Indiegogo. And again, it was like an experiment. I had a couple people get kind of like, they were kind of upset that I went over to Kickstarter because, drama and politics and things. Oh, thanks, all in place. And my only reason was because I had a prior audience over there. Like, I'm trying to make a living. And if there's people shopping over at Target, I'm going to put my stuff over in Target. But if nobody buys at Target, well, and I'm doing real good at Walmart, guess where I'm going? So
that's why I'm saying, because when like I mentioned, when I talked to Dame, Kickstarter was definitely something that got mentioned. So it's like Kickstarter, as opposed to, like I said, I have no, there are advantages to Indiegogo, but it's, at the end of the day, this is his name, this is his book. If he wants to put it on Kickstarter and promote it on there, it's going to be on Kickstarter, and that's just the way it is. And now I'll be promoting the Kickstarter. So I'm just gonna, like I said, this is business, and we think with some of the perks and some of the things that we discussed, that we can do. Obviously he's got the social media platform to push it. I mean, like I say, he's got over 1 million. Not to mention, he'll be able to get. He goes on the Rachel Ray show all the time as a regular. He's right. He's got a television show that's about to come out next year, and he'll be doing like press for that and all kind of stuff. He'll be promoting his comic book in addition to those things. So I mean, like, he'll have access and be able to mention the comic in other spaces that I don't have access to.
Right. And that's the big thing, getting some people have asked, and I'm sure you've run into this too. It's like when you have a campaign that does really well, people start asking for, how did you do this? What can I do? Can you help me with mine? Right. And 9 times out of 10, I remember being at a convention and having several people ask, and I say, okay, so tell me about your social media. Are you on Twitter? No, not really. Are you doing YouTube? No. It's like, I know what the problem is. It's like, you gotta be out there. And it gets tiring, right? I mean, honestly, for the last 8 months, I haven't been on very many people's shows just because, well, some family stuff, schedule of things, but last year just beat me as far as the schedule goes. Right. So, but you have to do it. It's tiring, but you've got to talk to people. You've got to build your own audience. You got to do YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. And when I talk to artists that are just not doing anything, it's like, you cannot just put a thing up there and expect it to explode no matter how good it is.
That was the mistake I made the first time. I was just like, it's here. Why won't you love me?
Yeah, please.
I was like, I was like, why don't you see? Why don't you just like? Because it was crazy. Like I said, it took me 3 times. It took me 3 times to successfully fund brand.
Yeah.
You know, it was like 3 times. So, like I said, the first 2 failed me. Although, like I said, if Dave saw, was like I said, I went from Indiegogo to Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter is where Dave saw it, and then that got everybody's attention, and it just started the ball rolling. So if I hadn't went over to Kickstarter, then you and I would not be having the same conversation.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it makes a difference. Just that you feel like you're beating your head against the wall, and traction can be real slow at times. But again, you never know. You never know when that thing is that's going to be to push it over the edge, and finally people start clicking on stuff.
Yeah. So that's the thing, and like when because you had William DeLaz, but when you came up with this concept for Gunship Thunderpunch, obviously you know how to draw robots because you've been drawing like Transformers, been inking Transformers for like the last 8, 9, 10 years.
Something like, a long time.
Like I notice when I'm looking on your Twitter and Instagram and stuff, when people are hiring you to do commissions, you're drawing a lot of that stuff, and G.I. Joe stuff too. I've noticed. It's like,
that's most of my fan base is because of G.I. Joe and Transformers, and so they'll often, I'm usually doing G.I. Joe. It's very rare that I do like a superhero commission. So it's always G.I. Joe, Transformers, and I think too the thing is there's not a lot of people that do Transformers because most artists hate drawing them.
Oh God, there's so many on. I tend to share on my Instagram page. I love when people, because I know how difficult it is to do. And I heard Elliot was telling me, he's like, God, I hate drawing robots like that. So it was like
Mike hates it. Most people hate it. They just don't. They don't.
Rulers, all that kind of stuff. What's going on? What do you need?
Well, the problem is like if you draw, and me and a couple of the other, I'm friends with most of the IDW Transformer artists. We'll go to shows, and it's kind of like the little group of guys and a few girls I hang out with is usually the Transformers and G.I. Joe, with always Transformers G.I. Joe artists. And we were talking one time. It's like, the writer writes Ultra Magnus stands here like this with his arms crossed. Ultra Magnus can't cross his arms. He can't. It's like it's physically impossible with all this stuff. So what do you do? It's like you draw. You fake it, right? You draw things that kind of cheat, that hands, that are kind of in front, but it really wouldn't make sense. It just has to look right in the panel, even though the character really can't do those positions. And I think that throws a lot of artists off. And I think just the detail, right? Oh, I got to get this, I got to get that. The panels, the little, because there's no real landscape. There's every robot has its own little landscape. As opposed to people, right? People's like, you draw the hands, you draw the anatomy. So there's no real set anatomy, I think, that really goes every single time with every robot. So,
let me see. About 3 years ago or so, there was an artist. What's his name? Livio Remondelli.
Oh yeah, Livio. Yeah,
Livio. Okay, he started. He drew. He gets a bunch of like Transformers commissions, I've noticed, and he was posting, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. So I started sharing some of his stuff. That's how, because I was trying to grow an Instagram, and I had no idea how to do it. And I started going to certain other pages. There's like meme pages and joke page. They show like little viral videos and stuff like that. And that's how they were building their page. Yeah. They had like 40, 50, 60, 100,000. And so I started following a lot of there's like Marvel fan pages, Star Wars fan page, and they just post different memes and stuff about that particular subject. And so I was like, what if I just take other people's art like they're doing and start sharing it, and then kind of sneak in a little plug for my stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so I did that, and I built my Instagram page up to over 11,000 people. So that works.
Yeah, it does. I can tell you right now, it's like when I post like a drawing of, if I'm drawing a sketch of a character, no matter how cool the drawing is, but if it's not a character people know, it doesn't do as well as like, here's Optimus Prime, boom, all thumbs up, all love. It's like people want what they know, like they want what they already love, and then you have to kind of win them over to your stuff. Right. It's like you have to say, hey, here's a couple of things, oh, here's something new, right? But you can't lead with the new thing.
Well, one thing I would say, because I would be showing like stuff that Kanan had drawn for Brand, and they'd be like, okay, this looks great. What is this? And they don't know what they don't know my characters, they don't know anything about it, right? So instead, what I started doing is like, okay, what's the hot movies out that are like sci-fi movies? Is there a Star Trek movie out? Is there an X-Men movie out? There's a Deadpool movie, Punisher movie, whatever. And whenever there's a movie, obviously they're spending a bunch of money on ads and stuff. And I noticed that the artist on Instagram will start, they're like, oh, there's an X-Men movie out. And all of a sudden you start seeing all this X-Men stuff pop up. When Black Panther was when it dropped, all kind of, you kept seeing Black Panther. Every artist all of a sudden became a Black Panther artist. So I had a wide variety of Black Panther. When they did Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, I started seeing Thanos had never been so popular. So I was like, all of a sudden Thanos is all over my timeline. So I would take the good stuff and I would share that and use the hashtag, because those hashtags were trending. So it was, I noticed I was getting a better response and I'd start getting followers that way. So that's something like, if you know what, like, the new season of Stranger Things on Netflix is coming. So all of a sudden you start seeing you start following those hashtags, and the artists were drawing like little caricatures of all the Stranger Things characters and the little kids and all that, like them in their Ghostbuster suits and all that. So that's good stuff to share. And it would get a much higher response. Game of Thrones is out all of a sudden. Everybody's drawing the dragons and they're drawing Littlefinger and doing all this little, you just see extraordinarily talented artists, but it would, that's what it would do. So, that's
and that's the thing. I've said this multiple times on different streams. So some people probably heard this. It's like, I always liken it to like a band. If you're a band and you want to do your own music, you've got to do covers, because when you're introducing to a new audience, you want them to perceive one new thing with something familiar, right? So if there's a band and you're doing your own sound, but you do a song they know, but you do it in their style and it's cool, they'll be like, oh, I know that song, but this style's cool. What else they got? And then they might come on board for your own original stuff.
Yeah.
But if you show up with your band at a thing and you're doing stuff nobody knows, it's like you're not going to get very far. So for the artist, it's like you got to draw the stuff people know, and then slip in your own stuff. And that's how you, over time, I think that's really how you win over new. People really start identifying, this is his style for this thing I know. Oh, here's his book. Oh, I'm gonna get his book too. So it's, some artists don't want to do that, but it's like, you kind of got to play the game. So that's just psychology. It's just the way the internet works. I'm sorry, but just the way it is.
Well, yeah, that, and because I just when I look, Instagram might be a weird way to tell how the culture's moving, because like I see way too much Dragon Ball stuff. Way too much Dragon Ball. All the artists, because I follow at least 2,000 some odd artists, yourself included, and but it's like Dragon Ball, and then My Hero Academia, that
anime, manga stuff.
Lot of Kanan, that's one thing. Kanan, I can tell Kanan watches anime because he'll be like, "This is from Shishiri no Tekka," and I'll be like, "What the hell is that?"
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I've never really been into anime.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
People get really, because there was, I know, the only anime I've ever really been into is Cowboy Bebop, and then going back to Star Blazers, right? Like the old stuff, but like any of the
Ninja Scroll. If you ever like Ninja Scroll. I love Ninja Scroll.
No, I never watched Ninja Scroll.
Oh, dude, it's dope. I love Ninja Scroll.
I'll check it out. I'm not opposed to anime. So it's one of those things that never was on my wheelhouse. But when I find something I like I stumbled into Cowboy Bebop, decades ago, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And it's just like there's so much out there, you don't know where to look. You don't, how do you get into it as an adult?
Like, how about I watched, since you draw robots, like Gundam, like Mobile Suit Gundam, right?
I've watched some more.
Yeah, so I started watching. They were running it on Adult Swim or something. They were running they were running Mobile Suit Gundam. And I was like, I want to see more of this. And I started noticing there were like 5 or 6 different cartoons for Mobile Suit. I was just like, like, if you just jump in, you don't know where to jump in, because it's like Mobile Suit Gundam Ninja War or something. It's like
Yeah,
You
there's
just
so many versions of anything Japanese you get into. Like when I was a kid, I watched Ultraman, like the original 1966 Ultraman, and there are so
mm,
many, how many versions of Ultraman are there? And to me, that's like it's not the only real Ultraman is the original one, but there's so many variations because every 5 to 10 years they come out with Ultraman Super something and then have more pointy things on it, right? And it's just like I'll stick with the first one.
I did not know that Ultraman had a comic being published in the U.S. I think is it Boom or Dynamite that has the rights
Yeah,
to
I
that?
was like that was just
Yeah,
barely on my radar, and
the
I
reason
think it
I
was
say that is
Boom.
it was a couple months ago. David Nakayama
Uh-huh.
he did a cover for the. And I was like, I remember seeing Ultraman like 35 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I loved
I did not
Ultraman. Yeah.
realize it's Ultraman is one of those things because basically it's a dude in a suit
Yeah.
pretending to be a robot.
He's
And
a
then
big alien, and it's I love because I watched it when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and then I got the DVD box set and I showed it to my son and he got all into it, and the funny thing is, so my son has also gotten into Power Rangers, which I never watched as a kid, but
I
I've seen
saw
all
the
of them now.
Japanese Power Rangers. I saw some clip. There's some people on YouTube that have taken the actual whatever it was originally before they brought it over for Bandai or
Yeah.
whatever brought
Oh
it
yeah.
over here and just dubbed American
Yeah.
over it and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's oh yeah, it's it was like the whole thing's weird and they just bought all these just like
Yeah.
I don't know, did you ever watch that on Netflix, The Toys That Made Us, where
Yeah.
they talked about Transformers, right?
Uh-huh.
And then some of the older the Generation 2 Transformers were other toy lines. They were
Yeah.
running out of ideas and they were like, oh, let's take this and make it a
Well,
Transformer.
that's why all the and I knew they were the original G1 Transformers were from two separate toy lines, which is why
Yeah,
there's the size difference. So
yeah.
anything that has a cockpit is Microman because it was actually supposed to have a figure that went in there, and everything else was Diaclone. And so that's why you have this huge size differential between here's a tape deck and here's a jet. And it's like, well, those are two different toy lines. That's why.
Yeah. Oh, let me see. Ghost Logger says grew up on Star
Yeah.
Blazers is dope. I love Star
Right.
Blazers. That's
I've got
great.
a Yamato up on my shelf. A little
Yeah,
Yamato
that's what
ship.
it's
Yeah.
called. Yeah, Battleship or Starship.
It's called Space Battleship Yamato
Yeah.
in Japan.
Okay.
To me,
Yeah.
it'd always Star Blazers, but
Do you? Let me see. What is it? Because I used to watch G-Force, but they call it Battle of the
Battle
Planets.
of the
Over
Planets.
yeah.
Yeah,
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 but when I was a little boy, I was like 3 or 4 years old in Huntsville, Alabama, in like 1979.
uh-huh.
My brother would come home from school and we would watch G-Force.
Yeah,
That's what it was called. And I was saying G-Force, and they said, no, it's Battle of the Planets. And I was like, no, they called it G-Force. And then when you research, they were like, I don't know if in the US, at least where in the South where I was, it
yeah,
was on American television. It was, matter of fact, you can find, because I was arguing with someone, and I found both intros. I found
yeah,
the Battle of the Planets intro, which is pretty much identical to the G, but then I found the G-Force
yeah,
intro.
yeah,
So it was like it's the same thing, but someone just overdubbed it a little
yeah.
bit.
It's just
So
it's the exact same thing. Um,
let me see. Amanda says, I'm watching the original Star Blazers for the first time. Hubby only got the first season by accident. However, we looked at the first episode of the new Netflix series, and did they do that? Because they did. I saw that when they did Voltron over again, and
I don't think
which
there is a
actually is okay.
newer. Well, I mean, newer. It's a few years old now. That of Star Blazers where it was kind of like the Voltron thing, and it was good. I mean, it was just basically a repackaging of the first season of um, Star Blazers, and they've also got the live action Star Blazers movie that they did. That is basically season one of Star Blazers, but it's all kind of crammed together into one movie.
Let's see. Ghost Slugger says, I am still waiting for the re-release on Blu-ray. Missed out a few years ago, and I am bummed out still. I want the original 3 series. Well, yeah, that's a great show. It's like I love a lot of those old, because Transformers, love Transformers. The way they have Transformers now, I don't know if it's like a mix of CGI and manga. That's how the new Transformers cartoons are. They're like manga Transformers. It's different.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it as much.
The only one that I've really liked was Transformers Prime. I thought they did a real good job with that.
What about Beast Wars? Were you ever into that?
I was never in. Beast Wars
I thought Beast Wars was stupid. I gotta be honest about it. But it was apparently very successful.
It was very successful, and I think the with guys that grew up like you and me with G1, it came at a time where, for me at least, that I was kind of getting too grown up for Transformers. I was getting out of that, and then it hit, and it was so different that I didn't care.
CGI wasn't very good either.
It was not good. I didn't even think at the time it was good.
No, when you look at the CGI, especially they were like, "Oh, it's CGI," and I'm looking, and the CGI, like if you look at it now, because there's all kind of clips of Beast Wars on YouTube, and the CGI doesn't hold up. They were trying to do a fully computer generated show. I was just like, "Oh God!"
It just 1992 or 93 is like.
But did you ever see the new He-Man when they did the new not the good version that was on the Cartoon Network where they were like battling Snake Mountain, Hiss, and all that? They did updated on Cartoon Network, and I think they had like 2 or 3 seasons of that, and that was okay. That was tolerable. They switched some things, like they kind of made the sword like mechanical, which I didn't like.
Yeah,
the sword should not transform. The sword became a transformer.
Oh no,
like,
no.
Okay, like if you see the Cartoon Network version of He-Man, right? He had his sword, right? The sword of power. Like the old cartoon, when he had the sword, it was the same sword, which I can't believe nobody figured out. They were like, wait a minute, the sword looks exactly the same as the one Prince Adam had.
He looks like exactly the same.
Yeah, he's just got a tan. It's like,
the favorite thing about the old He-Man was that Prince Adam had the exact same build too. He was already a muscle dude.
Yeah, he was already real muscular. The Cartoon Network adjusted that. Like when he's Prince Adam, he's real scrawny and everything. He's got
that makes sense.
So yeah, that's stuff that does make sense, and they lessened his powers. They actually put limits on him. It's kind of like they did like a John Byrne Man of Steel on him, where all of a sudden He-Man just could, because they had He-Man where he could lift a mountain up and all this kind of crazy stuff. He-Man was like stupid overpowered, but they were like, okay, he's still gonna be able to lift the mountain a little bit, but he's gonna struggle before he does. He's like, But Prince Adam is like a 90-pound weakling, and then he holds up the sword and he goes, by the power of Grayskull, and then you see the sword transform literally. It's all of a sudden it widens out, it goes, and it becomes a bigger sword for He-Man. So I didn't like the mechanical sword because I was like, no,
it's supposed to be magic, right? It's supposed to be sorceress magic thing, not a mechanical kind of thing. But
it was but like I said, it starts from a smaller sword and then it goes and becomes a bigger sword. So you would not think that He-Man and Prince Adam have the exact same sword. Because it was like,
I got to disguise it.
Because like I said, he gains a considerable amount of weight from the steroids.
Right.
And it was like he goes from being 90-pound weakling to being hulked out He-Man, and then the sword is like a regular sword, and they go and it transforms and becomes a bigger sword. Yeah. And then but I thought the Cartoon Network version of He-Man was actually good, but there was a show came out around 89, maybe 90. It was called The New Adventures.
Oh, yeah. And he was like more into space or something.
Oh, God, it was so bad. It was so bad.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It was.
And it had like the more 90s-esque font, and it was like more, I remember
they did
that.
The New Adventures of, they did like the new G.I. Joe battles too, and it was terrible. The new G.I. Joe was terrible too.
Yeah. All that stuff is on Tubi now, like G.I. Joe Transformers. I watched some of that season. TV. I end up watching Tubi more than Netflix.
No, I was like writing my scripts and stuff. I'm sitting here and I was like, I need stuff in the background, and all of a sudden I put on, they had the like Pyramid of Darkness G.I. Joe videos. I was like, I I love it. And then what was the one with the weather? I will build the weather.
The Weather Dominator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I was like, damn, Destro just kept coming up with all these. You had Destro, you had Dr. Mindbender. My favorite is the Serpentor storyline.
Rise Serpentor. Yeah.
Yes, I love because you got Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter showed up in that one.
Oh man, but no, the Serpentor storyline kind of gave me ideas for certain things that I want to do in my stories, and I just oh God, I was just but I love. Although some people, I've been on some like G.I. Joe forums and stuff, and some people's like Serpentor should have never been created.
Yeah, yeah,
and you know that was. And I've even seen there's one of the G.I. Joe, one of the largest G.I. Joe fan sites, because I've gone to I think it's like He-Man.org, and then there's a Thundercats.org, and there's like a Transformer. There's all I mean, you know, anything that's like 35 years old's got like big major fans, but there's you know, people were debating. They actually interviewed some of the people. I didn't know what was it, like J. Michael Straczynski had worked. He had written he had written for he had written for like G.I. Joe, he had written for He-Man and She-Ra. He created She-Ra. You know, it's like but you know, they on some of these G.I. Joe websites, they had interviewed some of the people, and they talked about when they decided to introduce Serpentor. They were like, okay, so we're going to do the Cobra League. We're going to bring in the Cobra Emperor now. And they go, Cobra Commander's in charge of Cobra. Why would you be bringing in? They go, no, Cobra Commander's got a boss.
Yeah. We got to sell a new toy. That's what that is.
The point. They needed to sell toys. So,
same reason they brought him in, for the same reason they killed Optimus Prime. Discontinued toy. Bring a new toy in. That's why. And that's it.
See, that's exactly. So when you're working for IDW, and because like I said, they've had a ton of licenses. They had like, and then they take those licenses and cross them over. There's like a mask like masked Transformers, and they take them and do mega.
They're doing Transformers versus Terminator now.
Yeah. But I saw they had Visionaries.
Yeah,
they didn't have Transformers cross. And I remember watching Visionaries. I had a Visionaries action figure, the guy with the cheetah. He had, he had the staff, and then he had like he summoned the power of the cheetah, which obviously means he could run fast.
Yeah.
But that was the one I picked. He was my favorite. I can't remember his name, but he was my favorite Visionary.
Yeah. If they have it, you know, usually they've done that. What else have they done? I can't remember, but they will cross things over. I think they've done My Little Pony and Transformers.
Yeah. I saw the comic for that. And those, I didn't know about this whole bronies thing. I didn't know there was I thought it was a goof, and people started. That's why I was like, I know I'm getting old, because I was like, a lot of times people like trolling on the internet and stuff, and I don't understand that they're just trolling and joking. I'm so out of the loop.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I was like, bronies, what is that? And then you start looking, like when you type it in.
That's a rabbit hole you don't. That's a Google search you don't want to go down.
It's like a bunch of like 40-year-old dudes, and they're like cross playing and cosplaying and all this. I'm like, okay,
yeah. You know, it's a different mindset than me. I don't. I don't know.
I just. But let me see. Chimera says that Thundercats Roar is the best show of all time. Thundercats Roar is a travesty of justice, but
did that get canceled?
Did it get canceled? Because I've heard it got canceled, but then I don't know. I don't, because I've seen some other people. What was it? A buddy of mine, and he's a big Thundercats fan like me. He said, he said, I thought it was stupid. He said, I said, my kid watched it and he loved it. And I was like, okay. So that just tells me it wasn't for. I was like, you need to delete that from his memory and go get like a box set or watch his own. I think they had all the episodes of Thundercats on Amazon Prime for a while. I was like, you need to show him the real stuff.
Yeah, watch all that, and then
But like those shows, I tried like watching shows. The way they do animation now is real weird. Like what Steven Universe,
Yeah, that's never just the
Adventure Time,
visual.
which Adventure Time is okay. I tried to watch.
Visually, it doesn't appeal to me at
Yeah,
all. It just it would be. It's like if it a cartoon like that would pop up and be quirky and really funny and animated that way could work. But when it becomes like the standard kind of go-to thing, you're like, wait, y'all are for real? It's like the first time you see it, you're like, oh, it's a joke. Is it, is it going for something? And then you're like, no, this is how they're animating now. And you're like, oh,
yeah, and I mean all the shows look the same. He was like my ex. She had 2 kids, and in our home, we had TVs in all the rooms, and even in my bedroom, Disney would be on. And I was like, baby, I want to watch the game. And she knows like when the Titans is on, I'm taking my TV back.
Right.
I don't care about this Disney, like, but I started learning what was it? The one that Selena Gomez was Wizards of Waverly Place. I started seeing all the shows. Wizards of Waverly Place. What was it? The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Oh, all that, yeah.
Hannah Montana, which my God, her son loved Hannah Montana, and I would hear it was the best. He's singing the theme song, all this kind of thing, and I'm like, oh God. So it's weird now because he's like grown out of that stuff and he plays football now. Although he just tore his meniscus and he's not gonna be able to play.
I've done that before.
It's his senior year in high school. I'm looking because we, surprisingly, we managed. When we broke up, it was kind of bitter, but we ended up making up and everything was cool, and we've stayed in touch. So now, it's weird seeing her son, and her son's like got this big thick mustache and he's shaved. I'm like, oh my God, he played football. And I'm like, but he tore his meniscus, and he just got through having surgery the other day, and he's just getting to go home. But yeah, he's not going to be able to play any more football for the rest of for his senior year. So he was, he's trying to get. He actually had a cousin of his that played for the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, okay.
He was on the Super Bowl team. Actually, he was coming off the bench, but he played. I mean, that's what's so. He played for the Titans for like 3 years, and he wasn't stupid with his money. He had he bought his house, but he bought a bunch of he bought some Pizza Huts. And
that's what you got to do. That's not a long career.
And he invested his money instead. He bought like a car wash. He bought that's what he took. He took them he was making like $400,000 a year, and he took all that money and invested it in little businesses. And he's still good.
I go to a chiropractor that played for the St. Louis Rams, and he's still he's a big guy, but not as big as he used to be. But he played for a few years, then he got out and he's a chiropractor now. It's like, man, if you got to have,
he didn't blow his money though.
That's the thing. It's like if you go into that, young guys get in there and like, I got all this money. It's like it's not gonna last. You save it, abort. Don't spend all that money. Don't buy the mansions and all that stuff. It's not as much as you think. You got a long way to go.
Yeah, that's why I was like, when my ex was telling me, she's like, yeah, because he played for the Titans for like about 3 years, and they cut him, and then they brought him back for like one more year, like 2 years later. He's doing the thing where he had to float around and get on practice squads and stuff like that, different teams. He was like, oh, okay, I can come back and do. But he took that money and like bought some Pizza Huts and different businesses, and he's able to. That's why I was like, he's able to take care of himself. He did not just, let me buy some rims and like 20 cars and stuff that I'm trying to remember that line that they talked about in Ballers. I don't know if you ever watched that show with Dwayne The Rock Johnson on it and stuff. Where he was like, if it doesn't, he said, if it drives, flies, or sales or something like that, don't buy it, lease it. It's like, don't, just pay to lease it for the year. Do not, because as soon as you buy that new Lambo and you drive it off the lot, it depreciates immediately.
Yeah.
So you can lease that Lambo, and then that way you're not all the way out because you're not going to get the full value. So it's that's something, so I always try to remember that. I was like, okay, so this football player was not stupid with his money, and he made, you don't work for your money, make your money work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's I thought that was really cool because he's not broke. Because there's so many, you see all these stories on like ESPN and stuff. It's like, most NFL players after they've been out of the league by like 5 years, they're broke, and that kind of thing. They've gone through all their money. They've had to file back
with actors too. You see actors that have, they're especially in the 80s and 90s and stuff, and they peaked, and we're old enough to remember when they were like the top, and then now it's like, where are they? It's like, oh, they're not. It's like the tragedy of like somebody like Gary Coleman, for example, right?
Oh my God.
Who was like a super well known, and then he's like a security guard.
So you saw the footage of him hopping on the roof of that? He hopped on the hood of that car, and people were like, "Yeah, we're not gonna listen to you."
I saw him at his very last convention before he died. He was him and Todd Bridges were at a show in Knoxville, and he had just come off dialysis, and he did not look good. Like he just looked horrible. But that was the show that I got in the elevator with just me and Todd Bridges on the way down. And I'm sitting there, and I look over, and there's Todd Bridges. We're staring up at the numbers, and he goes, "Man, this backpack's getting heavier, or I'm getting old." And I said, "Probably both." And the door opened, and he walked off. And that's my Todd Bridges story, everybody. That's I did not say what you talking about, Todd Bridges. I resisted.
That would have been funny. Like, what you talking about, Todd Bridges? That would have been hilarious. But isn't it strange? Because he was pretty heavy into like the cocaine and stuff for a little while there. Isn't it funny that he's the only one left?
Yeah.
He
is. Yeah, Dana Plato, she died early. That was a rough life right there.
That's what I'm saying. They all got caught out there, and I mean, so of the 3 kids, he's the only one that's. And I mean, he looked like he got himself drug free, and I saw he was acting on like Young and the Restless and stuff. Like he had different jobs and stuff.
It sounds like he got himself out of all that. So I mean, I can imagine. I mean, being a child actor, I would never let my child be a child actor. It's like that is not it doesn't seem to be a good world to grow up in. You have so much. I just can imagine it, having that much attention on you at a young age in your formative years. Like that cannot be good for you. I just can't.
I just couldn't imagine it. Well, like I actually want to. Let me see. I actually want to show people the art for Gunship Thunderpunch. I want people to actually be able to see it. Won't do much good for the people watching on the podcast, but you can go on Kickstarter if you are listening on the podcast and type in Gunship Thunderpunch, and it will come up.
There we go.
And yeah, there it is. Oh, and you have a trailer. Let me see. Can I actually play it?
If you like giant robots and missed out on Gunship Thunderpunch Book 1, here's your chance to get on board. This is a second chance campaign for the 80-page graphic novel, part 1 of a trilogy. A kidnapped son, a desperate mother, and an outdated transforming gunship. Mars doesn't stand a chance. Featuring a variant cover by Transformers fan-favorite artist Alex Milne. All art and story on this book are finished and ready to go to print. All it's waiting on is you to get on board Gunship Thunderpunch.
Hooray!
There it is.
Yep, there you go. Okay, so you're trying to get to 5,000. Yep. And this cover looks great.
Yeah, this is my friend Randy Green. He's one of the guys in the studio here in town that I was talking about earlier. He used to work he's done a lot of work for Marvel and DC back in the 90s and 2000s, but great job.
Yeah, that's a great cover. I need him to draw. What's the guy in Transformers that eats the worlds? Was it Ultron?
Oh, Unicron.
Unicron, yeah. I was like, I'd love to see him draw like Unicron. That would be awesome. Always love that. I don't know if you like Transformers, the movie. I was like, you got to touch.
Oh yeah, I love that stuff, man.
You got the power.
that song's on my running mix.
Oh really?
I got running every once in a while. You got to touch. Oh yeah, picking up the pace.
Yeah, like I said, you obviously do good work and lettering and who did your lettering and all that?
Eric Weathers.
Oh, Eric Weathers. Well, there you go. Eric Weathers is very solid there. Good job here. And yeah, I mean, obviously, there you go. You got nice big giant robot. Is Ultraman gonna show up and save the day here?
It does look like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was like, Yeah, man. I love this. This is great. Good stuff here.
So yeah, it's like this is I'm gonna do book 2. This is the part 1 of the trilogy. So
Oh, there's gonna be 3 parts.
yeah, this is part 1. It's this book's 80 pages, so it's not gonna be, you're not getting a little story, you're getting some quality.
Wait, this one book here is 80
Yeah.
pages?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Now
Okay.
you know.
80 pages. Okay. And it's already done.
Yeah. So this is when this campaign ends, it's going to print and then getting shipped. This is a quick turnaround. I'm getting this in and out because I want to launch the second book in probably January. So I wanted to get this second chance thing going, and then we'll move on.
This was Alex, was it Milne?
Milne, yeah.
Milne. Okay, yeah, this cover right here from him is dope. So it's like, I'm assuming you have a option where you can get all the covers or something.
Yeah. There's the covers in there.
Yeah, man, this looks great. This looks great, man. Yeah, and like I said, go to Kickstarter. Like I said, if you're watching on one of the, like if you're on Facebook or let's see, yeah, I know if you're on Facebook, you should see the link in the description because I've got it there. But yeah, this looks great, man.
If you search for Gunship Thunderpunch on Kickstarter, it'll pop up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on. Okay, Amanda, I know. Amanda wants the stroke. She goes, wow, who did the layouts for that book?
Well, who did the edits for that book? I don't know. I think I lost the email.
Yeah. I was like, we stroke your ego enough, Miss Lamella. I was like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I should allow you to edit a super official for me. Maybe I need to bring in another editor. I should not tell Dame your name. It's like, this is Amanda Lamella. This is our editor, Dame. But yeah, man, book looks great, man.
Well, thanks.
And you're still doing, so what are you currently, because I know you're working on like some more G.I. Joe stuff? Or
yeah, it was just I'm doing a fill-in issue. They just asked me because they got a little, I don't know exactly what's going on as far as the regular artists and stuff, but I think they just had an opening. So I was like, sure, I'll hop in there and do that. So I just, I'm finishing that up, and then I'm going to do an art book too. I'm going to do an Art of Brian Shearer book somewhere in between, somewhere in here. So got some things on the horizon.
Well, tell people, because yeah, this is fun. I was like, man, we have to have you back. This is but tell people how they can reach the great Brian Shearer.
So if you go to brian-shearer.com, you can get to everything. You can get to my YouTube. I do YouTube stuff. Twitter is Brian_Shearer because somebody else has Brian Shearer. Instagram, Brian_. But if you go to just brian-shearer.com, you can see everything. So you can hook up with me there. And that's probably the easiest way. Yeah. I'm on YouTube a lot. I'm on Twitter. I post on Instagram. I post my stuff. I'm not hard to find.
Well, yeah, I follow you on all that stuff. And but let me go through the little rundown here. So because actually I'm doing double duty today. It is Wire Wednesday, so I will be back at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Jill stream. We are doing episode 8 from season 1 of The Wire. Myself and Jill, we are going to watch on HBO Max or whatever you might have, Blu-ray discs or whatever. But if you want to watch along with us, it is season 1, episode 8. The episode is called Lessons. And we will be going through that, and Jill and I will be breaking down all the cool stuff. We're almost through the entirety of season 1, so this is going to be fun. But come back in a couple hours, come hang out with us. Of course, the audio from this is going to be on anchor.fm/Ikari Press and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and a slew of others. And of course, the good folks over at Planet EJOBN, we want to thank them for hosting us for this and so many other streams. And my YouTube is youtube.com/Ikari Press if you just want to hang out and in the chat and let me, okay, hold on. Let me get to Brooding Viking in the chat says, will Gunship Thunderpunch still ship if it doesn't hit the 5K?
On Kickstarter, it is an all or nothing thing, unlike Indiegogo. But like we talked about before, there is an option in Indiegogo that I could open that back up maybe. So if things go worse, I will be looking into that. I do want to get some more people on board with book one before we move on. So we'll just see how it goes. I'll just, again, if you sign up, I have a mailing list, actually Gunship Thunderpunch. It's on my website. But if you sign up for my mailing list, you'll find out the latest and where to get a hold of things. So
let's see. And Jabba the Coach says, you can find me at Chimera's mother's house. Okay. Yeah. And is that my face? That is my face. Okay. So, oh my God. Okay. There you go. Okay. Jabba, I had so much. I had plans for us. I thought we were going to be the best of mates, and that really hurts my feelings. Now I'm going to have to go and sob and cry. Something I don't know, but I don't know. That was nice. I like how you threw that up. Anyway, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all at Ikari Press, IkariPress.com. Takes you to brand Way of the Gun. If you are so inclined, and we will be getting ready to set up the mailing list for Super Official for Mr. Dame Drops, but he's going to be promoting that a lot heavier than I will be. And again, be back 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight for Wire Wednesdays. Oh yeah, and before I get off, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, Clayton, Barton from howtodrawcomics.net. We're going to do that. We're going to have him on to talk about Kozar. Something. Kozar. But it's on Indiegogo right now, and we're going to have him on, and him and his brother, Corey, and they're going to be telling us about their Kickstarter, their Indiegogo. It's like 17,000, almost 18,000 so far. And so come back and hang out with us there. All right, we're out. We're getting in. Let's go have fun and